Welcome to Manifesting with Meg, Conversations with Extraordinary People. Today, our special guest is Gloria Rivas-Vázquez, and this is episode number 92. And I can tell you, this is a dream big baby episode. Louis Be Free is on with us tonight. Love him. I can't wait to introduce you, Louis, to Gloria. She's amazing. And I adore you as well, as you know. You are all here to help transform your dreams into reality this month of April. And this is a show about transformation, dreams, inspiration, true happiness, and discovering your bliss. Remember, you are just a conversation away from extraordinary every time you are around extraordinary. So, time to wake up to a universe packed with possibility. Welcome, Gloria, to the show tonight. I'm so excited to have you here and introduce you to everyone. How are you tonight?
I'm doing very well, and I am super excited to be with you tonight, Meg. It's always fun.
Well, it definitely is. I will like to tell everyone that Gloria was on one of my first Magical Meg shows. So back in the day when we did it in person, and I was just so excited when she agreed to jump on in April because this, like I said, is my transforming dreams into reality, and a lot of my dreams couldn't be possible without her help. So you'll see why in a moment. But before we go on, as you all know, this is a show based on my book, The Magical Guide to Bliss. It is 366 insights of the day, and reality hits even the magical in that book when you use it as a guide. And as we all get intentional with these shows, I ask Gloria to set her intention, pick a number between 3 and 397. We all know the drill, and away we go. Let me introduce all of you to this beautiful, amazing woman. And we have Ana Sofia Gomez Rivas-Vázquez online as well, and she's saying hello. So even better. An attorney, we got another attorney, everybody, and former journalist. Gloria has been working in the field of philanthropy for more than 25 years. She currently serves as the director of the Hispanic Development Unit at Catholic Relief Services, the international aid and development agency that works in more than 100 countries. A nationally recognized expert on Hispanic giving, Gloria is the co-founder of the Key Biscayne Community Foundation. As you can all tell from the get-go, she is not an underachiever in any stretch of the imagination. She was born in Miami of Cuban-Venezuelan parents. She's a frequent speaker on Hispanic philanthropy, and based on her research and interviews with Hispanic donors, she actually authored a chapter on the giving traditions of Latinos, included in a book titled Nuevos Senderos, Reflections on Hispanics and Philanthropy. In November 2021, her article, Envisioning New Philanthropy, Is There a Latino Donor?, was published in an anthology about Hispanics. If we want to win, a Latino vision for a new American democracy. And that is the book that she has sitting behind her, that beautiful cover. Prior to her work at Catholic Relief Services, Gloria served as Vice President and Chief Philanthropy Officer of Hispanics and Philanthropy, a San Francisco-based international network of funders, and Vice President of Development and External Relations at St. Thomas University. She also held positions as Associate Head for Advancement at Carrollton School of the Sacred Heart and Director of Development at Dade Community Foundation, now the Miami Foundation, which is huge. Gloria has worked in partnership with large foundations and worked in nonprofits across the United States as well as Latin America. Prior to beginning her career in philanthropy, she was a lawyer. Not if you would think that she went from one to one, but yes, she was no small task, a lawyer, 1992, practicing labor and employment law with a large international firm. And then she worked as a reporter for the Daily Journal in Caracas, Venezuela, and for the Miami Herald. We're going to go back into, she's got a plethora of accolades with regard to her degrees. And as my husband would say, she also has more degrees than a thermometer as well, and her honors literally are off the charts. I do want to say more than anything, she is a woman who gives back. And she was the one founder of Smart Women and Spare Change, a women's giving circle. And she's volunteered throughout her life and her career. She's set an example for her children to be amazing in all that you do, especially of service. I love her family. I love her. I've known her for many years, and I'm so excited to introduce her to her. But more than anything, Anna Gloria is just a heart-led, amazing, beautiful woman who comes to everything that she does full throttle, which means that it's perfect for her intention tonight, but we'll get into that later. Anna Gloria, did I miss anything? I know that there's so much more. I mean, you graduated from Georgetown, a good Chevy University, went to Miami Law and honors and all of the like, but the reality is that's all of what you've done. The who you are goes beyond, you know, wonderful. So, how you doing tonight, my friend?
Well, Meg, you are very kind and incredibly generous, so I appreciate all that. It's just, wonderful to be with a good friend and having some time to chat about several things.
Yeah, and one of the things I love about tonight is because it goes along the theme of transforming dreams into miracles. Our theme tonight is "Go Dream Big, Baby," and there's a quote that I love. It's by Edgar Cayce. Edgar Cayce. He's an American mystic, and dreams are today's answers to tomorrow's questions. And just thinking about that, saying that out loud, think about it. Dreams are the answers to tomorrow's questions. If you're ready to transform your life, and as we all are, sometimes more so than others, especially if we're not in a really great place, we want transformation yesterday, and but the reality is we're all looking to do what we came here to do, that specific calling that pulls us on and gets us going. We need to start to dream and really visualize the clear results that will help us see through those things that we really, really get to do and want to do. So we plant them in our subconscious before you go to sleep, and then you wake up and you get your inspo for the day, taking those steps to make those dreams a reality. So when you're on the right path, there'll be signs along the way. I always say Anna Gloria was a God wink on my path for sure. We have to pay attention to those questions, and tomorrow's questions will be more than defined. When you dream big, you will inspire others to do the same. So, Anna Gloria, what are your thoughts on this tonight? And here we go.
Well, Meg, where should we begin? Is it time for an intention or?
Well, I'd like to know your thoughts on the dreams and how you go about your own life and your own life dreaming big. And is there a pattern or practice? Because I know that you're super accomplished. You've done even talking about your children and how you basically intended to have your kids. I mean, even that in and of itself is a dream come true. So I know that it permeates your professional as well as your personal life.
I think it's a matter of, I once had a boss who said to me, you can't wake up every day and kind of say, okay, am I on the right path? Am I doing what I need to do? You kind of have to set an intention, set a path, follow it, and then check in with yourself every so often. I think that otherwise, if you're every day, trying to figure out whether you're doing it right or whether this is the path, I think that can sometimes drive you crazy. And so I've always thought about that. You kind of set some time, you figure, I'm going to focus on this for X amount of time. Let me see how it goes. But I do believe in reflection and in assessment. It's just, it's so important, to check in with yourself, maybe to check in with a couple of people who are supportive and who can help you figure out if you're on the path that you want to be on. And I think that's the key. It has to be a path that works for you. It doesn't need to work for anybody else.
So, were you a lawyer before you were a journalist?
No, I was a journalist first. And then I had always contemplated, I mean, for me, the two, and, gosh, going back to high school, it was really between, do I become a writer? Do I become an attorney and, go into government or something like that? And ultimately, I decided to go to Georgetown to the School of Foreign Service, thinking I would do something in international relations or government. And then my first professional job was being a journalist. So go figure.
Did you work for the Miami Herald out the gate, or did you also, or was that when? Go ahead.
No, I actually worked first in Venezuela, in Caracas, Venezuela. I worked for an English language daily, and that was terrific. And then after that, I worked at the Miami Herald.
So seeing through the eyes of a journalist, when you're going out to get and capture stories, because ultimately, I'm a big believer that we're all storytellers in everything that we do. It's just how you tell your story. Some people, have a different approach. I wondered, what is your approach when you first took on that role and jumped into that whole world of, reporting, which is probably so different today than it was back then, I'm sure.
Yes, yes, it has definitely really changed. But I'm a naturally very curious person. And so I just enjoy talking to people. Obviously, you and I could talk
I
forever.
know.
But I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy hearing their story because everyone has a very, unique story, certainly. And I think I haven't found a story that I didn't think was interesting.
I like that.
So, to me, I remember telling somebody, wow, it is so neat that I get to spend my time talking on the phone, driving around and writing. I mean, to me, it seemed, it was really neat. And I think that ever since I was, gosh, I mean, I would say a little girl, I always thought of myself as a writer.
Yeah.
So I think I was 11 when I decided that. So, being a reporter and getting to tell stories was a lot of fun.
And, interestingly enough, you've gone from telling stories to an attorney. I would venture to say maybe finding the truth of the stories, right? Whether they're as bogus as others would like us to believe, or coloring, embellishing, or whatever the above, right? you know was it a seamless transition from one to the other as far as changing your careers, because you had already done it for quite some time before you went to law school?
I had already done it, but I think I always thought at some point that I would go to law school.
Mm.
And so, being a reporter was really great experience, actually, for law school, because first of all, I was used to writing quickly and on the spot, and that certainly, helped.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was that as a reporter, you look for details and you remember details,
Yeah.
and so that was also helpful in law school. But the other piece was that I had a lot of context, because I think I understood things that I wouldn't have understood had I gone straight from undergrad to law school, something like zoning. I never, if I had heard about zoning for the first time in law school, I don't think I would have understood it. So it was nice to have some real world experience.
Yeah.
And then, to be able to put some of these things that, that I knew about, then, once I was, reading cases and what, it just helped to make more sense of it. I have a friend who says that, for her, law school was like walking into a conversation that had already started,
Yeah.
and that it was, tough to, and there is something about law school
I
that's
love
like
that.
that,
That's
right?
walking
You
into
walk
a
in,
conversation. That's actually true. A
right?
conversation start. That's absolutely true. I never thought of it that way, but that is
Yeah.
totally on point. For
And so you're trying to figure out, they don't give you, I'm the kind of person that I like to understand the concept and then figure out. I was telling somebody the other day, I'd like to understand my place in the space.
I like that.
And so, but with law school, you just walk in and you're like, whoa, this has been going on. And did I get here late? Because,
Yeah.
it's the train's already going and I'm trying to catch up. So having the real world experience was actually incredibly helpful. And I know that for some people going straight through, whether it's, college and graduate school or college and law school, whatever that happens to be, that might be, the best thing for them. But for me, it was really very helpful to have some work experience.
And then finally, well, I'm not saying finally, because you jumped from that to philanthropy, to that kind of work of service, and that was that an easy transition as well when you went from one to the other, as far as?
I didn't really understand I didn't realize that there was this whole world to organized philanthropy. I grew up, well, in fact, I thought that I had grown up in a place called El Exilio because my parents came from Cuba about 6 months before I was born. And I would always hear my grandmother say, here in El Exilio, things are like this, and here in El Exilio, things are like that. And I thought, oh, that's, the name of my town. That's where I live.
Yeah.
And it took me a while before I figured out, no, you live in a city that's called Miami, and El Exilio, or the exile, is the state of your existence.
Wow, isn't that
So
mind?
yeah, I mean, I was like, oh, but it's interesting because when you grow up and the backdrop to my childhood was, the Cuban exile community. People are always helping each other.
Yeah.
Some people came with money, some people came with know-how, some people, didn't come with either of those things. But I just grew up in a community where people were always helping each other.
Yeah.
And so when I had this opportunity to go into the field of philanthropy and to discover that it was this whole world unto itself, I thought it was really, I just found it incredibly interesting. And then I ended up with this focus on Hispanic philanthropy, which I really, I definitely enjoy. But one of the things, that made it very meaningful for me was that I would hear people say Hispanics don't give. And I knew based on my experience
Yeah.
that that wasn't true. And so then, through research and experience and many, many conversations, I realized that Hispanics do give and quite generously, but not always in ways that fit neatly within US models of philanthropy.
Understood.
And that's how I finally, reconciled my experience with what I was hearing. And so it's just been, for me, very meaningful to be part of that conversation and to shine a light on the many examples of Hispanics giving.
But you know how interesting it is that now you have this whole career in journalism, law, philanthropy. Now, finally, your 11-year-old childhood dream big, baby, has come true. You got to write a chapter in a book, and the book is perfect for what you're talking about. If we want to win, and then go ahead, tell me the rest of the title as well, because I think it's incredibly telling how we plant seeds on our journey and certain things grow from that. So go ahead, tell me the name of your chapter again.
Well, my chapter is about, is there a Latino donor? And I think it really, starts off from a place of, after this last election, I think a lot of people were saying, there's no Latino voter.
Yeah.
And, for anybody who's Hispanic, Latino, Latinx, however one identifies, of course there is no Latino voter. A 75-year-old Cuban American in Miami is not voting the same as a 32-year-old Mexican American in California or somebody in Arizona or,
Yeah.
but this issue got a lot of attention.
Yeah.
And so then, we started having conversations, but is there a Latino donor? And the consensus based on people with whom I spoke is that yes, there is. I mean, there are many things, the Latino community is certainly not monolithic.
Yeah.
And we hail from a number of different countries. Our experience in this country is very different, our levels of education, all kinds of things. But there are certain cultural commonalities
Yeah.
that inform, how we give and why we give.
And what's interesting, those commonalities certainly do, I think, emanate from the whole concept that family and who you
Yes.
consider to be your family. And I want to take a step back because, it's funny, your story is so much more than what meets the eye. And the only reason I know this is because I know who you are. And one of the most amazing things that I get to experience because of the show, I like to ask you to tell us where your inspirations lie, what keeps you going in the midst of your writing or your when you were a journalist, or keep you like Catholic Relief Services right now. I can't even imagine what you're doing, what you're start to do. I know that it has to pretty much contemplate all of the need based groups in the world, but I think it's really important to know the who you are to understand the why you do what you do. And I'm going to start with this because I love it. And I think it really is the cornerstone for you. God calls us to his presence on earth. Welcome to the week's work ahead. And tell me about your take on that.
Well, and that comes from I participate in a prayer group through a church actually in Washington, which is where I went to school. And one of the women, said that, we're called to be, God's presence here on earth. And it was on a Monday. And she said, welcome to the week's work ahead. And I thought, wow, so that's daunting.
Oh my God, I love it. Well, keep going, please, please. I cut you off.
No, so I think that for me, my faith is really a North Star. And as I said, I grew up in this exile community, and then I was very blessed to be educated by two religious orders, the Society of the Sacred Heart, the Religious of the Sacred Heart, and then the Jesuits. And for both, this connection to others, this caring for others is really central. And so, what I was experiencing as somebody growing up in this exile community, where, as I said, everybody needed something. And as people came from Cuba, we had people staying at our house. We would gather things that somebody might need upon first arriving. And so having that experience, and then at school, just being that was emphasized, that was reinforced at school, that we really do have a connection to each other and that we need to care for each other.
It's so interesting because we trivialize things, I think, in many ways. Because what you just said right there should be the start of everything, is that if you knew that the guy next to you every day or the woman next to you every day has a connection to you, and how you treat them is certainly going to turn around and impact you, how would you go about your day? I love it. So God calls us to his presence on earth. Well, what does that mean? To be loving. Welcome to the week ahead. And wow, it's just in and of itself is so profoundly you, because I do know this about you, that you are, like I said, your work is based from a loving place. And one of the things that is great is that you pour from that cup. The thing is, when it's not full, it's kind of like draining. And I certainly, and if you don't mind me saying this, you are a coach as well. And you were my first coach as well. And when I needed to be poured into, you were there for me in many ways. And this definitely follows now. And I'm going to show this in the stream. I get by with a little help from my friends. Now, if there is anything that speaks volumes in my life of that, I will never want to go without, right? I never want to know a day without my friends. And tell me a little bit about why you picked this as well for your inspiration.
For me, connection with others is so important. And I gave a talk to a group of women about women's philanthropy. And as I was putting it together, one of the things that occurred to me was, when you think of when children are little and moms get together, oh, we're having a play group for the children. Well, the children at that point are parallel playing. They're not playing with each other. The play group is for the moms. It's for the
Ah,
mom survival and connection, because that is just so
yeah,
important. And I'm blessed with a very wonderful family, my extended family. But gosh, those friends, that family you choose, they are so important. And I think during the last 2+ years, they have been such a lifeline.
yeah,
I mean, whether it's the friend who texts you just when you need the text, or I have a friend who would show up with bag, because she knew that I love Trader Joe's, but I didn't want to go to Trader
yeah.
Joe's. And so every so often she would just show up at my house with a bag of treats from Trader Joe's. So for me, that friend part, and I always think of that Beatles song, right? But it's that line, and I change it, because I think I get by with a lot of help from my
Yeah,
friends.
no, I love that. And I definitely, going back to you as far as your storytelling is concerned, what would you say is a moment in time where your friends out of the blue surprised you?
Gosh, that is a great question. Well, see, again, food is one of my love languages. So for me, I have a friend who showed up, one Saturday morning, and I live in an apartment. So frequently we actually have like a little bag that we lower and people put things in, and we bring it back up.
Do you really? Oh, that's hilarious. I love it. I didn't know you had that. So you basically put the bag outside of your house and you lower it. I've never
Like,
heard something like that.
like people will come by and they're like, "Hey, can you lower the bag? I've got something I want to give you,"
Oh,
or I'll have something. And so, yeah, I don't know how we came up with
yeah,
that. I
how
think,
did you come up with that? I mean,
you
obviously
know,
you live
I,
on the 10th
I'm not
floor, but
sure. We've got this little pulley thing
that
going.
is awesome.
So,
Genius. Genius.
A friend of mine, for me, it's just those little things that people do. One Saturday morning, a friend showed up with a little, actually, it was like this little bread from the farmer's market. So for me, it's that. A friend, actually, the Trader Joe's person who always brings me really good treats, brought me coconut key lime pie
Oh,
from Key
okay,
Largo.
okay.
So
She or he gets a shout out today. That's a kind surprise and gesture, and you're
So, those things. I'm not a really big cook, so whenever anybody brings over, food, like to me, it's not just the food and that I like it, but it's something, that I don't have to do. So,
oh, I love it. And I think that someone who does think of you to make your life easier is definitely you know a-okay in my book for sure. So
well, and one time I'm thinking about this too. So when my children were little, they went to a parochial school that had mass every Friday. And for some reason, every so often, making people hungry, every so often, one of the children, or more than one child, would like get very faint. And one of the times it was my daughter, and a teacher, took one of my daughters out, and so I took her running to the pediatrician. And when I came out of and of course, I was very worried. Um, it's interesting what you worry about until you have bigger things to worry about. But so I came out, and a girlfriend of mine had left. I love orange Sunkist. Okay. I rarely buy it. I, drink it maybe once a year, but she had left a bottle on
oh,
my windshield.
oh,
And so, it's those little things that people do that, because I think, sometimes the smallest things are things that make you happy. And people who know you really well,
yeah.
they know about those small things that matter to you.
It's funny when you're talking about, those are the little problems. Now they're bigger problems that we always like, oh, when is this going to end? But you remember you told me a long time ago one of my favorite words after wanderlust, catastrophizing. You
Oh,
told
yeah.
me that I guess it was a priest that you had worked for said, Anna Gloria, stop catastrophizing on your life. I love it. And you know what it is? It just encompasses everything that I'm dramatically inclined to do. Like the whole and then you're like, step
Yeah.
back, step back. But I think that what you just said there, when someone puts a sun kissed on your or a orange sun kiss on your windshield, it stops you and you're like, oh, somebody loves me. It's like,
Yeah.
oh.
Well, and it's funny because I actually it was a priest friend, he was a colleague, and I got mad at him when he said that. He said, "Oh, just look at yourself in the mirror and say to yourself, Anna Gloria, you're catastrophizing." And I was just so mad at him. And of course he was right. And then the other thing was I was going through a tough time. My dad was terminally ill, and somebody who worked with me, every time we got like a bit of bad news, would say, Anna Gloria, just breathe. And I remember looking at her thinking, "Oh my gosh, like not only do I not want to breathe, but this isn't helping."
Yeah.
And of course, many years later I realized how right she is. And I have a colleague who says, "Breathe, pray, trust, repeat."
Oh, I love
And if because the first thing you have to do is breathe, right? It just kind of slows you down. And I read, I think it might have been Sylvia Boorstein. I'm not exactly sure which author, I forget. But she said that, breathing helps you to calm your body.
mm,
And when you calm your body, you can calm your mind. And your mind gets clear and you can see options. And then once you have options, you have hope.
I love it.
And so it's that whole process of, but the first time that, this one woman was telling me this, every time she'd say, breathe, I just wanted to scream. And so now, I'll say it to my children. And recently one of my children actually said it back to me.
Oh, they did. Ah, the work is done here, right? Your work is done
Yes,
here.
yes. And so this particular child told me to close my eyes and take 3 slow, deep breaths.
Did she? Oh, that particular child did. I love it. And then Louis saying, yes, people say it's just a little thing, but yet to me it meant the world. And I love people like Louis and like yourself, where those little things, even saying to someone, just breathe so that you can see, like you can't see hope, unless you calm yourself enough to like it's not the end of the world. Like, and I remember, one of the things that I will say when I was going through a really tough time and the anxiety was way overwhelming, and I was like, someone said, "You need to learn to breathe again," and I go, "Isn't that automatic? Do I have to really add that to my list? Like, isn't that like a given? Like, why would I do that? Why would I?" But the reality is we so don't. We hold our breath so much that
Yeah.
we forget that you need to take in air so you can, you know.
And I don't know if I told you, Meg, but I take ballet. And my ballet teacher is just wonderful. We were doing something one day, and it was just a pose. And I was, and she said, "Wait a second." She goes, "Were you breathing? Because you shouldn't be out of breath now." And I looked at her and I said, "Oh my goodness, you are brilliant. I was not breathing." So,
Okay, so everyone, Anna Gloria is a true Renaissance woman. And when I say that, she does mention ballet in passing, but she's taking ballet. She took violin with her young children at the same time. It is never, never too late to start something that you love and that you want to master, or even just dabble in, because I think that's one of the most important things that you model to so many others, is that it's never too late. It's never too late. And that will take us to this, because when you're kind to yourself, then you're better willing or more willing to be kind to others. And at any age, certainly, I don't know how old this woman is in the picture, but she's definitely up there. You're laughing because you're actually joyful in your life. And so tell me, kindness is all we need. Tell me a little bit about that.
Meg, I don't know whether you remember, but I wrote a daily blog on kindness
Yes,
for
you
5 years. And it started off as a summer project for my children. Somebody in class with my children said that she was going to do, I think it was like a Be Nice project during the summer. And I thought, oh, well, my children and I can do kind things, and we'll do that for the summer. And it was so interesting because it turned out to be a project that lasted 5 years. And it really was, I called it Adventures in Kindness, but it was really reflections on kindness.
Yeah,
And a couple of things came out of that. One was that because
I love that.
we were always looking for kindness. I had people calling me, "Hey, you won't believe what happened." Or my children, "Oh, mommy, this is what happened at school." Or, "Hey, look over." And so because we were looking for kindness, we found so much of it. And the other piece was that the impact of kindness, it just never failed to truly amaze me. The impact of even the smallest kindness on someone. And, there's a story, that's part of our family history. So, my mom came from Cuba 6 months before I was born. And by the time before I turned 3, she had 3 children. She hadn't turned 24 yet. So she had 3 under 3, wasn't quite 24. Recently arrived from Cuba, trying to figure out, how to make a go of things. And we lived in this house that had a washer, but no dryer. And there were a lot of diapers, and that was in the days before Pampers and Huggies, right? So they were cloth
Yeah,
diapers. And so my mother was always doing, and she really didn't like having to go in the backyard and hang the wash because the grass got long
yeah.
and it somehow didn't get cut as fast enough as it grew. And one morning she opened the door and a path had been mowed for her from the back door to the clothesline. And the next door neighbor had seen, this young mom, every day, going out. Then, in the morning, the grass kind of gets icky around your ankles when it's wet. And so he just did this for her. And I have no doubt that this gentleman probably forgot about it the following week or maybe the following month. My mother has remembered for decades.
Wow, that's amazing.
And there are all kinds of little things like that. I mean, my friend who brought me the sun kissed. So many things that we do for each other. But I think that the reason that kindness is so powerful is in order to do something kind for somebody, you have to see them
Ah,
and you have to see what they might need or what they might like or what might make their life easier in even the smallest sense. And so we're telling somebody, you matter.
yeah. You know,
And so that to me just blows me away how powerful kindness is.
I wanted to ask you, and I remember that you did that for 5 years. I have to
5
tell you,
years every day.
and when you stopped, I noticed because I was always looking for your kind because I signed up for your blog, and I was always looking for your kindness hits because I think that when you read these kind of things, then the same is true. It attracts more to you. And the reality is I was wondering, if you could tell, like, other than the fact that that was a project you decided to do, what was, other than obviously paying attention and being more aware, how have you continued that in your life after you stopped writing about it?
I think, as I said, it really makes me more intentional about certain
Yeah.
things. Sometimes you're like, oh, I need to text that person. Should I really, and time and time again, when I do make those, there's those teeny efforts,
Yeah.
really, but it's just, clearing your mind, long enough to do this other thing that you don't have to do. It always surprises me, I recently got a handwritten note from somebody, who I had been going through a tough time. I would just send texts every so often, didn't always get an answer, which is fine, by the way. And sometimes I'll say to my friends, please don't feel you need to answer. I just want you to know I'm thinking about you, praying for you. And this woman wrote to me one of the nicest thank you notes I've ever received. And of course, I've read it several times, but she said, your messages really mattered to me when I was going through a difficult time.
Wow, I love that.
And so it just and Meg, I don't always send the cards that I want to send, and I have all kinds of wonderful intentions. It just don't happen. But I think that we have so many easy ways. I mean, I still love to write a handwritten note, but I think sometimes when you just send somebody a text, I'm thinking about you, I'm praying for you, that matters to people. I know it certainly matters to me because we think of people, but unless we tell them, they don't know.
Well, that's for sure. And I know that since studying happiness, basically that's one of the things that actually can boost, proven scientifically to boost your happiness factor, is when you are the one who writes the note to someone
Right.
else to tell them how important they are to you. When you're the one who instigates that or brings that to the fore, because it changes you to the point where you can actually be effective in a way, in an honest way too, to someone else or for someone else. And I wanted to ask you because I know that you work for Catholic Relief Services, and I know that what they do, I mean, I don't know if you can give like a brief synopsis of what it is that that organization does, because I know what it does, but I just, to educate perhaps who's
Sure.
listening as well.
Sure. So Catholic Relief Services has been around since 1943, so almost 80 years. We work in more than 100 countries. We're a humanitarian international development organization. Many people know us for our disaster relief work. When something happens, whether it's a natural disaster or a man-made disaster, we're there. And we've usually already been there because we're working in the poorest countries, as I said, more than 100 countries around the world. We first started working, during World War II, resettling refugees. And what I didn't know was when we were celebrating our 75th anniversary a couple of years ago, we were unearthing, early stories. And we don't resettle refugees in the United States anymore. But one of the things that we discovered was that the last group of refugees we resettled in the United States were the Cubans in the
Oh, wow.
early and mid 1960s. We had an office at the Freedom Tower in
Oh,
Miami.
wow.
And my grandmother, one of my earliest memories of my grandmother, who's the original Anna Gloria, by the
Oh,
way,
yeah.
but she worked as a social worker. And what she would do is work with the unaccompanied children. 13,000 unaccompanied Cuban children came during the, very early years in 1960. And many of those were resettled by Catholic Relief Services. So I had no idea that I had, my family had crossed paths with the agency I ended up working at.
I love
But
these goosebumps. The synchronicities are awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. No, that's amazing. That's a great. And now, what kind of projects are you? I know as in the fore right now is obviously Ukraine. Do you work on
Yes.
initiatives with Ukraine as well?
Yes, no, absolutely. We have been doing a lot of work to help the Ukrainian refugees, and we do everything from providing immediate assistance, food, hygiene kits, psychosocial support.
Okay.
One of the things I have a colleague who actually I think she may be in Poland right now. I'm not sure whether she's in Poland or in Moldova, but one of the things that I've really learned from her is that, same thing with the Syrian refugees, but when people are fleeing these situations, they've been traveling, they're exhausted, they have to make decisions for their families. And for instance, 90% of the Ukrainian refugees are women and children. So you've got women who have, possibly left their husbands behind. They're in a position where they need to make decisions about their family. They're not sure whom to trust, and decisions that are going to affect their family for years.
Yeah.
Where do we end up going? And so, to have an organization, we're part of the Caritas Internationalis network. And
Right.
so to have an organization that is trusted and that can, help you sort out, not just give you a place to sleep and food, and, but really, help you sort out what's next. That's incredibly important. And so, we do a lot of that. We also do a lot of development work. So whether it's working with farmers, so that, I didn't realize before I worked with Catholic Relief Services, how many of the world's poor are actually farmers. But working with them and helping them learn how to use their land better,
Mhm.
it gives them and their families a better future. It gives their communities a better future. And at the same time, it's environmentally better for the land. So, we talk about creation care.
Right.
We also work with young people. For instance, in Central America, we've been doing a lot of work with at-risk young people. And I visited, our programs in El Salvador, and it was incredible to see these young people who were, learning skills, learning how to, really having the tools to earn a living, to stay with their families. Many people, or most people who migrate, really don't want to leave their families behind. So if they have an option
So true.
to stay in their countries, to be, to learn how to be good parents. There's so many things, so many different facets of our work with young people, that I'm, always very encouraged by.
That's amazing, and that you found yourself there, and that there was a link to your family when they first came
Yes,
over is amazing.
that,
I just sit there and like, wow. And I think that this certainly is a cornerstone to probably the work that most of you do at CRS, and that's Mother Teresa, the one. And so let us always meet each other with a smile, for the smile is the beginning of love. Tell me why you picked this one. I mean,
several reasons. Again, going back to my days with the Kindness blog, it was so interesting to me how, and you can try it, right? Just walk around and smile at a stranger. And sometimes, they'll be a little startled before they smile back.
yeah,
Sometimes the smile comes easily, but it can really change their day. It can change your day.
yeah,
It really makes such a difference when you just, I mean, in fact, if you're talking on, if you, when you answer the phone, if you're smiling,
yeah,
people can hear it, right?
yeah.
And Mother Teresa was actually my graduation speaker when I graduated from college.
Oh, wow. What an incredible opportunity to hear her, and how was that for you?
It was incredibly special. We felt very blessed that she was our graduation speaker. And then our CEO at Catholic Relief Services actually did a lot of work with her in India early on in his career with CRS. And so, she's very special to the organization with which I work now. But also, the fact that she was my graduation speaker, I think, obviously there's a soft spot in my heart for her. And, she just had so many wonderful, quotes and ideas. And, but again, I think about it a lot related, to the kindness work because, sometimes all we have to do is smile. It doesn't cost us anything.
And interestingly enough, there was a time period when they found her journals, right, to the Pope, and then how she shared with the world her darkness. I don't imagine that was supposed to be with the world. However, it was shown to the world that, in her time of dedication to her work here, she felt a lot of sadness, a lot of depression, anxiety, all of the above. She's human. That's why
Right.
she's a saint, because it's
Right.
the saints were the greatest sinners, right? So I was like, but I don't imagine she ever was, to be quite honest with you. But I just find it fascinating how we hold people, you know, we look up to them so greatly. But I think one of the most beautiful thing about Mother Teresa was that she lived side by side. It goes back to what you were saying before, that collective, that we are each other's keeper. We really are. We're here to
Mhm.
take care of each other. And I just find, that beautiful, that if you can't do anything more than just smile, then that might be the beginning of something quite amazing. And then, of course, going back into this, hang on a second, wait a second. I was like, oh my God, I didn't have a third one. Anyway, oh my God, do you remember the third quote? I can't even believe I don't have it. I can't even believe I don't have it. Anyway, well, let me show your beautiful image of your book on the screen as well. And, was this a dream come true for you?
For me, to work, as I said, in this, on this issue, this topic, which has real meaning for me, because of my personal history. Yeah, anything that I can do to highlight the fact that, Latinos are givers of all kinds of, not just financial capital, but cultural capital, intellectual capital. I think that unfortunately, sometimes they haven't been portrayed as that. And sometimes people don't understand that there are many ways to give.
Yeah.
And so to be able to work on this for me is absolutely, absolutely a dream come true. And yeah, no, I was very glad to be able, to follow up the research that I had done originally, with this new article.
So okay. So this is my favorite part about this show. And I think that the reason it is because we get to tap into like, I mean, we know your resume is incredible. You have been involved in legislation, like as far as those process, you've been at the table with some big decisions. You are not more than, anyone else, someone who's in this world to make a difference. At the same time, your voice is heard. You have a seat. People listen to you. So my question for you right now, as far as manifesting a magical life that, where your dreams come true, because, I think people say, I can't dream. I don't, how is that possible? Like, my dreams will never come true. They go there. And I think we all do. Sometimes we're like, nothing's going to happen for me. Nothing's ever going to happen for me. I want to be an author since I was 11 and I write every day, but who's going to read me or who's going to see me or who? This is my favorite part because you've manifested a lifetime of dreams. And I think, what is the secret sauce for you for that?
I think that it's the secret sauce, but it's also what is hard for me is just to take that next
Mhm.
step. And so I think that over time, what I've realized that, works for me is I'm definitely a planner.
Yeah.
So I have to kind of plan things out and, just figure out what is that one step that I can take that will move me forward. And that's something that, I've worked on with my coaching clients, because sometimes they want to do things. And, the important thing is figuring out where is the obstacle. For instance, there was a time when I used to go to the gym very early in the morning. And I finally realized that if I got out my door, that was it. That's what I had to focus on
Oh,
because I could get dressed to go to the gym, but I might not go. I
yeah.
mean, how many times do you put on your workout clothes and you just don't go anywhere? But I never walked out the door and came back in, you know? And so I thought, all right, what I need to do. And so I try to do that with things is figure out where is that that point that's going to make the difference.
Ah,
The equivalent of walking out the door. What's the point of no return for me? There's that. And then the other piece is, can I break this down so that I can take even the smallest step forward? And then the third thing that I would say, and this happens to me with things I don't want to do, is, well, I don't tell myself that I don't want to do them. It's just a big project. I can't get started, whatever. And so I say to myself, you know what? Work on it for 30 minutes. And working on it for 30 minutes might mean that I just sit and think about it, or that I start writing something. And of course, invariably, once you begin, it's okay. So, I would say that for me, it's those three things.
I love it. And I think that, I love the visual, once you get out the door, it's not like you're coming back in.
No,
Like,
I mean,
you already did it enough.
you don't get in the car and say, "Nah, I'm not going to the gym today. Let me go, back inside my house." So, but I realized, because I broke it down, in the car. No, obviously, I never get out of the car and say I'm not going. But I realized all I needed to do was walk out the door.
Amazing.
Getting dressed, for me at least, was not enough.
Yeah. I think those little, I guess, mind games we play, that, we think are very insignificant, but yet even Mike Spatola is saying, he can relate the need to take the next step is key. And, I think that it's kind of like the story where you're walking across the country, like you said, don't give up because you could almost be there, right? You're walking so far. And if you turn around, you're like, wow, you realize how far you've come, and that in and of itself is like kind of like the endorphin hit. I love checking off the list. Oh my god, it's like
Oh,
it's like it's like crack for me. It's like
no, I'm a huge list checker offer. I mean, I just love doing that. And the other thing too, Meg, is that asking for help.
yeah,
I mean, sometimes we think
I
that
love that.
we're either smart enough or should be smart enough to figure it out ourselves.
Yeah,
And I think the older I get, the more, like, sometimes even on a writing project, I've called somebody and said, you know what, I can't figure this out. And it's usually an easy fix. People are actually really, for the most part, glad to help, right? I mean, think if somebody called you and said, hey, I'm struggling with a sentence. Can
yeah,
you help me out?
yeah,
You'd be thrilled.
yeah.
So I
I
think
like
that, getting comfortable enough, to ask for help.
it's interesting because I think everyone's so afraid of looking stupid that they don't open their mouth and say, well, and it could have been like, "Oh my god, I could save you hours." There's like hour like, so you're stupid if you don't ask for help. Not that I'm saying anyone's stupid, but the reality
Well,
is that
yeah.
wow.
Listen, I once had a boss who was really responsible for actually this article and so many other things that I've been able to get done in life. And she had she had approved my hiring an assistant. And she comes to town and she said to me, "Hey, so, how's the search for an assistant going?" And I was like, yeah. And she looks at me, she goes, "So you've been too busy to find an
Oh,
assistant?"
that's hilarious. Oh, that that's great. Oh, that's great.
I mean, what could I say, right? But I think that, and I've worked with coaching clients who, for instance, oh, I can't get that email out, And so I'll say to them, so how long do you think it would take you to draft and send the email? Yeah, 5 or 10 minutes. How long have you spent thinking about
Ah,
sending that email?
that's awesome. Oh, that's awesome.
And it's just something that, and it happens to all of us.
Yeah.
But I think, getting to know yourself and figuring out, okay, so what little tactic, what strategy works for me.
I love that. And one of the so I think their tools are amazing. Certainly, I definitely benefited from many. And I think that the coolest thing is that when you do collaborate with another person, then that other person will be excited and want to celebrate with you when you actually get out the door. You
Right.
get to the gym or you finish that email. It's like, oh my God, that's awesome. Like someone else who is invested in your success, or even someone else who can share that with you. And I think that, those are kind of like the buddy systems. And I think that one of the things, and I love this because shout out to your sister. One of my favorite stories, and it has inadvertently involved you. When I wanted to go on El Camino, we needed to get people to join us so we could go as a group. And I had sent you, and I really wanted you to come because I kept thinking, oh, it's going to be amazing. I'll be like having Anna Gloria on this journey for 77 miles, and she's going to have to listen to me. And I was like, oh my God. And it went to, so she's not kidding when she says the first Anna Gloria is her grandmother, but they all are Annas in her family. So she has a sister who I used to send inspirational quotes to, or my inspirations to, named Anna Victoria. And I happened to send my email to Anna Victoria, not Anna Gloria. And then when I got a response back from Anna Victoria that she wants to come, I was like, how odd is that? How did you get to know? She's like, you sent me the email. But I'm telling you, it's because of knowing you, my intention was there. And I imagine and many of the days I was walking with the other Anna and having those in-depth conversations, but had you there with us the whole way through, because these connections that we have open up to other opportunities along the way. And I always want to say, one of my favorite things that you always would say at the end of your coaching is, what's your takeaway? What's your takeaway? And it really does have you stop and really kind of quantify quality wise the time that you're spending on things that to you matter, so that you are able to take those little bite size hits and take them away. And I certainly, it's so funny because when you asked me, what are we going to talk about today? And I was like, well, I'm going to be getting my takeaways. I don't know what you're going to be doing, but I'm definitely going to rack them up. So that goes back to the beginning of our beautiful evening, where I asked you to set your intention. And perhaps maybe this is going to be your takeaway. So, what was your intention for this evening?
So my intention was go lightly.
I love that. And what does that mean to you? Well, I love the story, so you got to tell the story. It's a good story. It's a good story. We're storytellers. You got to tell the story.
Well, my first intention was going to be go where the spirit leads you. But there's something about going lightly. In a way, I mean, I think that we're really called to be people of joy and people of light. And so I think that frequently we get so bogged down, and we let ourselves get bogged down. And whether we think, oh, I can't make that phone call, I can't take this step, and so I just love the idea of going lightly. But the other piece is
I love those. You got to tell everyone.
that I have a Starbucks name.
Okay, everybody,
And
she has a Starbucks name, okay? Just take that in. She has a Starbucks name. That is not her name. So go ahead, Anna Glory.
so I was in a coffee shop with a colleague in New York, and her name was much simpler than mine. So when they said, "What's your name?" and it wasn't a Starbucks, but they said, "What's your name?" and I used hers, and she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, your name is easier than mine." And she said, "Don't you have a Starbucks name?" And I said, "Oh, I don't." And she said, "Mine's Trixie." I said, "Oh." I said, "Well, I guess I need a Starbucks name."
Oh,
And so I came up with Holly G for Holly Go Lightly, the main character in Breakfast at Tiffany's. And so it was interesting because when I was thinking about the intention and just kind of going where the spirit leads, I like the idea of going lightly,
love it.
and it connects back to my Starbucks name.
So Holly Golightly, I gotcha. And what was the page you picked in the Magical Guide to Bliss?
Let's see. Let me pull this up. Be bold.
I love it. And I
Be
usually say,
bold.
what pieces of that passage speak to you that align with your intention tonight?
I love this line. All it takes is a commitment to a new reality.
I love
Then get ready to see how the universe will provide the connection to make all your dreams come true.
Ah, that's amazing. And it kind of goes back to when we started, the whole concept of dreaming big. And if you're finding yourself in a situation where you feel your dreams perhaps are far away, are not near, or maybe you're not even able to articulate new dreams because you might be. I was laughing the other day. I don't want to insult anyone or say anything but I said, if Jesus could rise from the dead, then I could rise out of the mess I find myself in. I'm just like, that's pretty outrageously over the top, like literally, and then I could rise from this mess, and I can bless this mess, because sometimes those messes, the chaos is where we find ourselves. That, and it's interesting, kind of goes back to what you're talking about, the lightness of being, right? The unbearable lightness of being,
Yes. Yes. I love that book. I love that book. But I think that, for so many of us, we could do with a lighter touch. We know those people who come. I have this friend who has this amazing gift. And her gift is that, if you ask for her advice, she'll give it to you. But if you tell her about a situation, it might not be what she would do, but she will find something good in it. She will highlight the good. She just pulls it out. And when I think of her, I just think of her as, somebody, just this person with wonderful light and just an attitude that is, and, I frequently ask her for advice, and so I try to channel that gift. Sometimes somebody will tell you something, they'll be like, oh my. So I just kind of take a step back, I take a breath, and I try to channel my friend.
I love it. So, and Louis saying, yeah, a commitment to a new reality. And it would not be great if we don't like the reality we find ourselves in. We can definitely shift to that. And that's bold, because that just means that you're not going to settle for something that is not really aligned to your passion and purpose. And that's beautiful, because that's hope. And that's what you were talking about with the breath. When you breathe, your mind goes calm, or your mind kind of gets still, and then you can start seeing those moments of hope peek in, because you can hear where you weren't able to before. And what a great takeaway for me today, huh? Where we all can go a little lightly, go a little gently. So hit us up with one more final inspiration, because I know you gave us so much, and I know that I ask so much from you, Anna Gloria, but I'll tell you one thing that is absolutely true is you, like I said before, you come from a place of love, and you lead with your heart. And I think that effectively impacts many people. And I'll never forget the day when I walked into my office to hand my resignation in. And you've always told me before, show up authentically. So I had to wear my golden glitter shoes with my leopard jacket. And I never felt so empowered to do the thing that was going to free me to enter a new reality, like you've said. So the inspirations are good, Anna Gloria. You do well, and you change many, and like Mother Teresa, and it starts with your beautiful smile. So give us one more hit of a final inspiration this evening.
It's very simple, but what I would say is just begin. Just begin and figure out what is the tiniest step that you can take. And, crossing a river can look and feel daunting,
Mm,
but you don't need to cross the river. You have to figure out, where is the step, where's the stone that I will step on next?
wow.
That you can do. And so I would just say, begin, identify a small step. If you can't identify the small step,
Wow.
ask someone who loves you to help you identify
Uh,
the small step.
I love that, and that is where you won't be walking alone, certainly, for sure. And there's that wonderful, wonderful quote by Goethe, and it says boldness, right? Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. And it goes back
Mhm.
to the answer to your intention tonight. Be bold, commit to a new reality, go lightly. And if you need her, I know you'll be with Catholic Relief Services, but where can we get this wonderful book of yours? And tell us a little bit
It
more
is,
about people who contact you.
the book is actually available on Amazon.
Awesome. So, and the other, so it's if we want to win a Latin vision for a New American Democracy, and it's an anthology. And Gloria, excuse me, wrote a chapter in it. So I would love to guide you guys over there to Amazon to buy it. And also, this incredible person did a TEDx. What is the TEDx called?
I don't know what they have finally
Okay.
titled it. It was TEDx Key Biscayne, and so I don't know when those talks are going to be up. But we signed all the releases recently,
Well,
so
that's very exciting. And so, if you want to hear her TEDx and get more of her inspiration, Anna Gloria, 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 Rivas, Rivas dash, and this is where it gets special. Vasquez, it's Vaz, not S, it's a Z, Quez. And the interesting thing is when we were in the community, we saw some people who were resting in peace next to him who actually had your last name, which was kind of uncanny because it's not the norm for sure. So it's Vazquez. So go check out her new book. Anna Gloria is also a coach. I don't know if you do that as well as offer that. So please tell us your webpage that they can go to and meet you there.
I actually don't have a web page
Okay.
anymore.
And so how do we find you? How do we find you if we'd like to know more about you and what you can do for?
Well, people can email me, agrvg at bellsouth.net. I still have a Bell South email.
Very good. So there you go, everybody. So I want to thank Anna Gloria for this enlightening evening filled with inspiration and certainly lots of takeaways, like we said. Go likely. I love it. Everybody got to get their Starbucks name and report back because that is definitely something that's going to happen. My husband says that he goes to Starbucks and he gives Brad Pitt all the time. So when they ask where Brad Pitt is, he'll start looking around. I was like, all right, there you go. That's amazing. Okay. So I want to say, I am grateful, beyond grateful for the connections I've made over time. I will tell everyone this that when I was at my lowest moment, you did, in fact, help me through it. And I love to say that every success I have will always have a piece of you along with me, and I get to celebrate with you. And that is my truth. I want to tell everyone out there who is listening to remember to be the deliberate creators of your life. Dream big and let us all raise the positive vibrations on this planet. Start with a smile. Take that first step. Get out the door. Get out the door. You got it. Just the door. And let's love ourselves exactly where we are by going lightly. Because I think that was really beautiful, beautifully said. Breathe if we need to breathe, and reach out to others if you need it. It's time to manifest the life of your dreams. I'm wishing you all bliss. Anna Gloria, thank you so much. Also, one more thing. If you haven't gotten my Butterfly Awakens, you'll see Anna Gloria's role in my life in that because she was really, really, really vital as far as the whole pivoting, the getting me out the door, because I was in my closet for quite a long time. So I appreciate everything that you are, everything that you've done, all the people you impacted. I'm sure I speak for them as well. You are a light in this world. I've enjoyed every minute of it. And I hate for it to end, but tonight it is. We will have more conversation in the future. I know. I love you dearly. Everybody, go have a wonderful evening. Wishing you plenty of love and bliss. Thank you. And good night, everybody.